Are you ready for a pixie book? Come on and listen in! With stories full of wonder, it's time now to begin. Hello, children. Are you ready to hear a story? Oh, that's wonderful, because I'm ready to tell a story. Oh, and here's the storybook. Everyone's ready. Let us begin. Oh, the story of the ugly duckling. Our story begins early one morning. Mama Duck was waddling back from the pond where she loved watching the beautiful sunrise. Mama Duck would have liked to have stayed longer, but she had a nest full of eggs to attend to. As Mama Duck happily made her way back to her nest, she came upon a strange-looking egg. She looked around to see if perhaps the egg's parents were nearby, but no one was there. She waited to see if they'd come for their egg. She waited and waited and waited, but no one came. Well, she couldn't just leave the egg there. Finally, she decided to take the strange egg home and care for it. When she arrived back at the nest, she gently placed the strange egg amongst the others and gave it a little kiss. "Don't worry, little one," she whispered. "You're safe now." Sometime later, as Mama Duck was sitting upon her eggs, she suddenly felt a little nudge from underneath her. Quack, quack. One of the eggs began to hatch, and then another, and soon the air was filled with the sweet chirpings of baby ducklings. Oh, hello, little ones. Ooh, but one egg didn't hatch. It remained quiet and still. It was the strange egg. What is growing inside it? Mama Duck wondered. A short time later, the strange egg suddenly began to shake. The duck family stood around the egg, eagerly watching its shell fall away. Well, the little something that emerged looked nothing like the other ducklings. It was bigger and rounder, and the colors of its feathers was much different from their own. "Oh, what is it?" one of the ducklings asked. "Why, he's your new brother," Mama Duck replied happily. Well, new brother or not, the ducklings thought he was very strange, and for that matter, ugly. And from then on, that is what they called him, the ugly duckling. Well, the word soon spread, and others began noticing the peculiar duckling. One time, a sparrow whistled laughingly down from the treetop. "Look, there goes the ugliest duckling in the land!" There was another time when a pair of chipmunks stopped to watch the ducklings parade on by, when they caught sight of the ugly duckling and burst out laughing. "What an ugly duckling!" Oh, the ugly duckling couldn't understand why he was so different and why everyone laughed at him. It was so painful. And so, late one night, while everyone was sleeping, he quietly snuck away into the dark. The poor little ugly duckling roamed about the countryside, and whenever someone would come around, he'd quickly hide so they wouldn't see him and laugh. Well, time went by, and the seasons changed, but the ugly duckling's pain remained the same. One morning, as they sat beside a little pond enjoying the beautiful sunrise, a flock of geese landed on the pond right beside him. The ugly duckling didn't have time to hide. Hi. The geese all looked at him and smiled. The ugly duckling was puzzled. The geese weren't laughing at him. "Hey, why are you here all alone?" asked one of the geese. Well, It's a long story, replied the ugly duckling. I guess it's because I'm ugly. The geese looked at each other and all began to laugh. You see, said the ugly duckling, nothing has changed. Well, perhaps more has changed than you think, said another goose. Well, take a look in the water and see for yourself. The ugly duckling slowly waddled to the edge of the water, looked down, and there, looking back at him, was the most beautiful bird he had ever seen. It had snowy white feathers, a long neck, and deep, piercing eyes. Who's that? He called out. Why, it's you, said the goose. Well, you are a swan. Huh? But how could... The ugly duckling was so confused. He took a deep breath and again looked at his reflection. And there he was, a beautiful swan. I'm a swan. I'm a swan, he sang out, flapping his grand white wings with his head held up high. Sometime later, Mama Duck was sitting and watching a beautiful sunrise when she suddenly heard the flapping of wings, and beside her landed the most beautiful bird. Hello, said the swan. Do you recognize me? Mama Duck had never seen the swan before, but somehow he did seem familiar. She looked deep into his eyes and caught a glimpse of her long-lost duckling. Oh, my, how you've grown. Oh, welcome home, dear one. Welcome home. Mama Duck wrapped her wing around the beautiful swan, and they sat quietly together, enjoying the dawning of a new day. The end. Oh, what a moving story. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. You know, if you click on the like and subscribe buttons, you'll never miss a story. Oh, hello, children. Are you ready for a story? Oh, wonderful. Yoo-hoo! Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the hills, there lived a shepherd boy. Every day, he'd take the village's sheep up the hill and out into the fields. There, the sheep would roam about and nibble on the green grass. Every so often, a sheep would wander off, and so the boy would climb onto his trusty steed, which was really just a stick, and trot about in search of his lost treasure, that is, his sheep, and finally guide it back to the flock. Otherwise, not much else would happen. Each day went by the same as the day before. One day, the shepherd got to thinking, being a shepherd is so boring. I wish something exciting would happen. Like, what if a wolf came around? Oh, I'd have to use my sword, that is, his stick, and chase that mean old wolf away. Suddenly, he got an idea. What if I fooled the villagers into thinking that there was a wolf? They'd all come running. Now that would be a sight to see. Why not? I'll do it. And so the boy cried out, "Wolf! Wolf!" In no time at all,
the boy could see the villagers scrambling to find sticks and stones, and they quickly came racing up the hill. "Where's the wolf?" they called out. Sorry, it was just a crow in the bushes." Oh, the villagers sighed with relief and returned to the village. Once they were far enough, the boy burst out laughing. "That was great! Now that is what I call fun!" And so, the boy spent the rest of the afternoon giggling and proud of how he had fooled the entire village. The following day, the boy was counting how many times one of the sheep had been chewing on one mouthful of grass. 152. 153. Boring. Oh. Suddenly, he had an idea. Actually, it was the same idea as the day before. Wolf! Wolf! Once again, the villagers ran up the hill. "Where is it? Where's the wolf?" Well, it was just the wind. The villagers now seemed a bit irritated. But to the boy, it was just a game. The next day, the boy was up to his tricks again. "Wolf! Wolf!" Huh? Oh. But this time, hardly any villagers came running up the hill. No, so much for that game. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Later that day, the boy was lying on the ground, looking up and imagining the clouds to be fire-breathing dragons, when suddenly he heard something in the bushes. He sat up and looked around. It must be the breeze. But then he heard a twig snap. Oh! Hello? Is anyone there? Another twig snapped. Oh! Hello? Then, all at once, the sheep lifted their heads and sniffed the air. And that, is when the shepherd's heart began to pound. Oh, he slowly stood up and held his stick tightly, and then he saw him. A big, gray wolf. His hungry eyes were glowing. A chill ran down the boy's spine. He used all of his strength to cry out, "Wolf! Wolf!" But no one came. Then, as if on cue, all the sheep began to run about. Meh, meh, meh. Now that caught a villager's attention, and she cried out, "Wolf! Wolf!" The villagers started running up the hill, collecting stones. Within moments, a rock landed beside the wolf. Then another, and another. The wolf began growling and howling until one rock hit him right in the snout. The wolf whimpered with pain and ran off, never to be seen again. The shepherd boy had learned some very important lessons that day, and from then on, he enjoyed the peaceful time he spent with his beloved sheep. The end. Come on now, it's time to go to sleep. He doesn't want to go to sleep. He's so full of stories. He has so much energy. Shh, shh, time to sleep. You too, good night. Shh.
Oh, what a lovely story! If you think it's lovely too, then click on the like button.
No! Hello, children. It's time for a story.
Wait, someone or something is missing. Ah, yes, the storybook. Not there. Not there. Oh, there he is. Hello, storybook. We're ready for a story. The story of the 3 little pigs. Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs. These little pigs were brothers, and ever since they could remember, were always competing. Who would be the first to arrive? The fastest to finish? Oh, it didn't matter what it was, the 3 would compete about it. When the time had come for them to leave their parents' house, the first pig said,
I'm going to build me a brand new house.
The second pig then said,
Oh yeah? Well, my house will be much nicer than yours.
and as the 2 pigs argued amongst themselves, the third little pig just smiled, and off they went. The first little pig was walking beside a farm when he saw a large stack of hay, and suddenly had an idea. He purchased the hay and rolled it over to a flat spot with a lovely view of the valley. Then he emptied the middle of the haystack to create his living room. He poked holes in the walls for a door and windows and called it home.
Look at me. I'm as fast as a pig can be.
The second little pig was walking along a forest trail when he noticed lots of twigs and leaves on the ground. Suddenly, he had an idea. He gathered as many twigs and leaves as he could, carried them over to a flat spot not far from his brother's hay house, because he too would have a lovely view of the valley. He then mixed all the twigs and leaves with some mud, and in no time at all had built himself a new home.
Well, at least I'm not left. My twig house is a blast.
The third little pig passed by the hay on the farm and the twigs and leaves in the forest, knowing, well, they weren't the right materials. He would build his house with strong and sturdy bricks. His house wouldn't be far from his 2 brothers, so that he too could enjoy the lovely view of the valley. As the days passed, his brothers would often come by and snicker and jeer while he was hard at work.
We know who will finish last, said the first little pig. My hay home took only 1 day to build. Oh, yeah? Said the second little pig. Well, but your home isn't as tall as my house of twigs.
Well, the third brother gave them no mind. He just continued to build. Finally, after a lot of hard work, the third little pig stood proudly in front of his new home. His 2 brothers came over for a visit, but this time they just stood there in awe. Suddenly, they heard a chilling howl. Arroo! The brothers looked out over the valley and could see a huge, menacing wolf coming towards them.
Ah!
Each pig ran into the safety of their homes. The wolf stepped up to the first little pig's hay house. He took one look at it and laughed. A house made of hay? Oh, with a huff and a puff, I'll blow it away. And so he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. The first little pig squealed and quickly ran over to the brothers' twig house. But just as the second little pig opened the door, the big wolf arrived. Twigs and mud might be a bit stronger, but a huff and a puff from me, and it's all over. And again, the wolf huffed and puffed and blew the house down. The 2 little pigs squealed with fear and ran as fast as they could over to their brother's brick house. He quickly let them in and locked the door. The refreshed, hungrier than before. He huffed and puffed and blew with all his might. But this time, the house stood strong. He tried again, huffing and puffing and huffing and puffing all through the night. Finally, as the sun rose over the valley, the wolf let out one last howl of despair. And walked off exhausted. Later, as the three little pigs stood looking over the piles of fallen hay and twigs, the third little pig held them close.
Well, what matters most is that we are all safe. Say, how about the three of us build your homes together?
The two little pigs squealed with delight. And finally, after a lot of hard work and cooperation, the three little pigs, now three happy neighbors, lived in their well-built homes with a lovely view of the valley, happily ever after. Oh, what a heartwarming story. It's been a pleasure telling it. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, I just love telling a story, like Cinderella. Would you like to hear it? Oh, wonderful. Well, come on over to PixieBooks. Oh, hello, children. Are you ready for a story? Oh, I'm ready to tell one. Did you hear that? Oh, hello, storybook. It must have come from inside. Ooh, let's see what story we'll get to hear today. It's the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, deep in the forest, there lived a family of bears. Papa, Mama, and Junior Bear. Every morning, they'd wake up, eat a hearty breakfast, and then venture out to explore the great outdoors. Papa and Mama would teach Junior all about nature. Oh, they especially loved bird watching, and even more so, bird listening. One morning, just as they were about to sit and enjoy their delicious morning porridge, Junior was standing near a window when he heard a strange-sounding bird.
Mama, did you hear that? Oh, I'm sorry, Junior. I must have missed it. I was pouring the porridge into our bowls. There it is again, cried Junior.
Yes, I hear it, called Papa. Why, it's a rare bird. Hurry, everyone, let's go and find it. They all rushed out, leaving the door open behind them in their rush. There was someone else who also loved all that the forest had to offer. It was a sweet little girl named Goldilocks. Can you guess why she was called Goldilocks? That's right, because she had lovely golden curls. Now, Goldilocks always took her notebook to the forest so she could draw the things that she would discover. She too had heard the rare bird and was now in hot pursuit. She reached an area of the woods she had never explored before, when, to her surprise, she came upon a lovely-looking cottage. Who lives here? She wondered. As she came near, she noticed that the door was open. She looked inside.
Hello? Anyone home?
The place had such a warm and cozy feel to it. There was something else that caught her attention. The delicious smell of freshly made porridge. Oh, she followed the mesmerizing scent to a large table, and on it were 3 bowls, a large bowl, a medium-sized bowl, and a small bowl. Oh, she couldn't resist and tried some of the porridge from the largest bowl. Ouch! This is too hot, she cried out. Then she tried some from the medium bowl.
Ooh, this is too cold.
Finally, she tried some from the smallest bowl. It was just right, and it was so tasty that she had to try a little more. And a little more, and more, and more, until soon she had eaten it all. She then walked into a sitting room. There was a large chair, a medium-sized chair, and a small chair. She decided to go directly to the smallest one. The others were just too big. She sat on it, and it felt just right. But just then, she heard a crack, and the chair collapsed. Oh, ouch, she cried. She slowly got up and entered the next room, which she was sure was a bedroom because there were 3 beds in it. A big bed, a medium-sized bed, and a small bed. She yawned and suddenly felt quite sleepy from all the excitement. Well, there was no way she could climb on top of the big bed. She looked at the medium-sized one, but its blanket looked too thick. So she put her notebook on it and then lay down on the small bed. Oh, it felt just right. And within moments, she was fast asleep. A while later, the bears returned from their exciting expedition after they caught a glimpse of the bird and heard its beautiful song. Now they were hungry and made their way straight to the table to eat. Papa looked at his bowl and noticed that his spoon was in it. Mother noticed the same. Suddenly, Junior cried out, "Hey, someone has eaten all of my porridge!" Papa jumped up and sniffed the air. I smell an unfamiliar scent. They followed it into the sitting room. "Hey, my chair is broken!" They quietly made their way to the bedroom, where they found a little girl lying in Junior's bed. Junior couldn't believe his eyes. Mama then noticed the notebook and glanced through it. Oh, what lovely drawings, she thought. Look, there's even a sketch of the rare bird we saw. She looked at the little girl, smiled, and said, "I don't think she means us any harm." Just then, Goldilocks slowly opened her eyes and, to her amazement, discovered that there were 3 bears standing right before her. She jumped to a sitting position as the bears jumped a step back. No one moved. They just looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Finally, Mama kindly said, "Are these your drawings?" Goldilocks nodded. "Oh, they're beautiful. You're very talented," Mama Bear said. Goldilocks smiled. Are you the one who made the delicious porridge?" Mama Bear smiled and nodded. "Wow, you're very talented too. That was the most delicious porridge I ever tasted. I'm sorry for eating it all and breaking the chair and falling asleep in the bed." Well, Junior grinned, "I guess you must have good taste because you chose all of my stuff." Laughter filled the air. And from that day on, Goldilocks not only had new friends, but great teachers who showed her all the magic of the forest and took her on great bird watching and bird listening expeditions. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. Oh, did you hear that? Oh, I think it must be a rare bird. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. If you want me to tell you when I have a new story to tell, just click on the bell. Whee! Oh, thank you for the ride, Storybook. Oh, hello, children. Are you ready for a story? So are we. Oh, The Farmer's Story. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer who worked a small plot of land with his wife and young son named Josh. Now, this was in the old days when horses helped till the soil. The farmer had a working horse named Charlie. He was strong and sturdy. Josh's morning chore was to gather hay soggy from the morning dew and carry it over to Charlie, who loved soggy hay. He would eat it all in seconds. Nom, 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 nom. Josh's nightly chore was to go to Charlie's stall and brush him. He would clean his coat from all the mud and dirt. And when Charlie was nice and clean, Josh would gently pat Charlie on the nose, wish him a good night, and close the stall behind him. One morning, as Josh arrived at Charlie's stall with a fresh heaping of breakfast hay, he stopped, dropped the bucket, and let out a scream. The farmer heard the scream and ran over to Josh. "What happened, son?" Josh pointed at Charlie's stall with tears flowing from his eyes. The stall door was open, and Charlie was gone. The family searched the area for hours, calling out to Charlie, but he was nowhere to be found. That night, as the farmer sat beside Josh on his bed, Josh was still weeping. "What are we going to do? Oh, this is so terrible." The farmer hugged his son, smiled, and said, "Ah, son, things happen for the best. And the best thing to always do is give thanks for what you have right now." Josh heard his father's words. Well, I'm thankful that you're my father," he said, as he slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, Josh woke up to a familiar sound. It was Charlie neighing outside his window. Oh, but wait, whose neigh is that? And that! And that! Josh ran out of the house to discover Charlie happily bucking about with a whole herd of horses. The farmer and his wife joined Josh and joyously stood watching the horses at play. That was a very busy day. The family had to make room for the new horses. They would sell a few to make money to build a bigger barn for the new horses. There was a lot of excitement on the farm. That night, as the farmer sat beside Josh on his bed, Josh smiled at his father and said, "We're so lucky. Isn't it wonderful?" The farmer smiled and replied, "Yes, things happen for the best." Josh smiled back and said, "I'm thankful for you and Mama and for the new horses." A week passed, and one day the farmer was taming one of the new horses. The new horse wasn't used to being told what to do and gave the farmer a kick in the shoulder. The farmer had to go to the hospital for a week. Finally, the farmer was able to come home, but was still bandaged up and wasn't able to work. That night, Josh came to sit by his father's bedside. Josh was sad and said, "Look at you. What bad luck." "Remember," replied the father, "things happen for the best." Josh gave it a thought and smiled. "I'm so thankful you're home." The next morning, the family was awakened by loud banging on the door. They all got up and came to the door together. When they opened it, they were surprised to see a number of soldiers standing there. The soldiers looked at the farmer and said, "A war broke out. We're here to recruit you to the king's army." Josh's heart sank. He couldn't even imagine his father going away to war.
But before he had time to say anything, the farmer smiled and said, "I'm sorry, but as you can see, I couldn't help you even if I tried." The soldier saw his wounded shoulder, nodded, and left. When they closed the door, Josh hugged his father. "Oh, we're so lucky. If you'd been healthy, they'd take you off to war." The farmer smiled. Like I said, things happen for the best. All we can do is give thanks for what we have right now. And the family lived happily and thankfully ever after. The end. Oh, I'm so thankful for that story. That was truly the best. And now, bye-bye. Did you like the story? Then click like.
Oh, hello, children. Oh, Storybook and I have a classic tale to tell. Are you ready? Oh, wonderful. So are we. The story of Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a rich merchant whose wife fell ill. As she felt her end drawing near, she called to her beautiful daughter, "Oh, my dearest, always be kind and good, and trust that things will work out. Take this locket and keep it close. It will protect you." Years passed, and the merchant remarried. His new bride and her 2 daughters came to live with the merchant and his daughter. The merchant was often away on business and entrusted his daughter's care to his new wife. Little did he know that his new wife and stepdaughters were very mean to his daughter. The stepsisters mocked her, while the stepmother forced her to attend to all their needs from morning till night. They even forced her to sleep on a pile of cinders, which stuck to her hair and clothing, and so they named her Cinderella. Poor Cinderella spent her days laboring away. Late at night, she would secretly take out her beloved mother's locket, which she kept in a secret pocket. She would open it and gaze lovingly at her mother's worn-out portrait and cry herself to sleep. One day, the king's messenger arrived and regally announced, "Hear ye, hear ye! The prince is ready to be wed. All maidens are summoned to a special ball at the castle, where the prince, by the midnight hour, will choose his bride." The 2 stepdaughters cried out with excitement, "Oh, I'm sure he'll choose me to be his bride." "You?" the other sister mocked. "Only if he's blind, he's sure to pick me." The stepmother interrupted. "He won't choose either of you if you don't go and prepare yourselves. Hurry now, there's much to be done. Cinderella, don't just stand there like a stump. Prepare their baths and bring out their new dresses. Move it!" The sisters barked out orders while their mother oversaw it all, making sure that her daughters were fit for a prince. Finally, they all stood at the doorway ready to leave when Cinderella whispered, "Can I go too, please?" "You? Go to the ball? Oh, we'd be the laughing stock of the kingdom. No, Cinderella, attend to your chores." And with that, the stepmother slammed the door. Cinderella dropped to her knees and burst out crying. Tears streamed down her dusty cheeks and down onto her ragged dress. One tear made it all the way to her mother's locket. The locket began to shake, buzzing with energy. Startled, Cinderella slowly took it out. The locket glowed brightly. Suddenly, it opened, and swirls of twinkling light danced about the room until finally a smiling old woman wearing the sparkling dress magically appeared. "Oh, hello, Cinderella. I am your guardian angel." Cinderella was shocked. But But how? No time to explain. You have a ball to attend. And with a wave of her hands, rainbow sparkles swirled around Cinderella, transforming her appearance from head to toe. Ooh, not bad. Take a look in the mirror. Cinderella looked and was amazed, especially by the crystal slippers she now wore. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. That's what guardian angels are for. And now, there's only one little thing. The magic will wear off by the last chime of midnight. Now, go and have yourself a ball. A short time later, Cinderella arrived at the ball. When the grand doors opened before her, she stood in awe of all the splendor. Everyone immediately caught sight of her radiant beauty, and especially the prince, whose heart skipped a beat. He approached. It would be such an honor to dance with you. Cinderella blushed, curtsied, and replied, The honor would be mine. The prince danced with Cinderella all through the night, deeply moved not only by her beautiful appearance, but even more so captivated by the light shining in her eyes. Finally, the music stopped, and the king stood up and called for attention. The midnight hour is upon us. Cinderella looked at the clock, which began to chime, and gasped. Son, have you made your choice? I have, father, said the prince. He then turned towards Cinderella, shocked to discover that she was gone. He saw her rushing out the door. Stop, he cried, and rushed after her. By the time he reached the steps of the castle, she was nowhere to be found. He then noticed something twinkling on the ground. It was her crystal slipper, which had slipped off her foot as she ran off. The next day, the prince set out with a small entourage to find his lost love. He went from door to door, having every maiden try on the crystal slipper. When he arrived at Cinderella's home, he was greeted by the stepmother and her two daughters. The first sister shoved her foot forcefully, even banging it into the wall, but as hard as she tried, it was too small. The other sister, realizing that the slipper was too big, tried to secretly stuff it with a silk cloth, but was caught in the act. The prince let out a sigh and walked out the door. However, one of the prince's aides caught sight of a woman clearing cinders out of the fireplace. You there? It was proclaimed that every maiden is to try on the slipper. Come on! Cinderella stepped forward shyly and slipped her foot gracefully into the slipper, which fit perfectly. Everyone gasped. The aide called out to the prince, "My lord, we found her!" The prince rushed back into the room and stood before Cinderella, and despite all the dust and grime, recognized the light shining in her eyes. To the great shock of the stepmother and sisters, the prince kneeled before Cinderella and asked for her hand in marriage. Cinderella felt the locket softly shake in her pocket. She smiled and said yes, and they lived happily ever.
Are you ready for a pixie book? Come on and listen in. With stories full of wonder, it's time now to begin.
Love story. Okay then. See you next time. Bye-bye. Hello there, children. It's time for another wonderful story. Oh, Storybook, good to see you again. Oh, that's a good one. Storybook, thank you. It's called The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there lived a king and a queen and their daughter, the princess, a charming young woman. On her birthday, her royal parents gave her a gift. No, not a drone. Drones didn't exist back then. It was a ball.
a golden ball, beautiful and smooth, made with real gold in it. It magically went up high in the sky when she threw it, and shimmered under the sunlight. Oh, how much the princess loved that ball! She played with it every single day with her friends. One day, quite a gloomy day actually, the princess went outside as usual to play ball with her friends. They played and played for hours, up until the ball was thrown too high up and fell far away, too far for the players to even see. The princess rushed to search for it. She searched and searched, strong wind blowing in her face and dark clouds gathering above her. And then she saw it! On the edge of a pond, there it was! But oh no, the wind was cruel to the princess that day. It blew the ball over the edge and bloop! Into the pond it went, sinking to the bottom. After all, gold is heavy. The princess was so upset, and for a good reason. Her parents gifted her this beautiful golden ball, and she loved it so, and now it was on the bottom of this dirty pond. She feared she would never see it again. She stood there near the pond and cried, "Oh, what will be of my beloved golden ball? How will I tell my parents I lost their precious gift? Oh my!" Suddenly, she heard a splashing sound when a little frog's head appeared above the water, staring at the princess. And then it spoke. "Hello, princess. Why are you crying?" The princess was shocked. You can speak, but you're a frog." The frog nodded. "Yes, and you're a princess. But why are you crying?" The princess, sniffling and rubbing her eyes, told the frog about her precious ball. The frog paused for a moment, scratching his slimy little chin with a slimy little hand. Well, if I go down under and retrieve your precious ball for you..." The princess's eyes lit up. "I'd give you anything. Please, please do it." "Is that so?" said the frog. "Look, it's awfully cold and dirty here, and quite hard to find food or shelter. If I get you your ball back, will you let me into the castle you live in and let me eat dinner with you?" The princess immediately nodded her head, her hair getting wet from the rain that began falling down. Yes, I will. Yes, please, please," she said, not really thinking it through. "Well then, here I go," the frog called out, diving down the pond into its dirty water. The princess was pacing around the pond impatiently while long minutes passed by. Then, suddenly, his head appeared out of the water, and soon after, his hands holding her precious golden ball. He swam to her, placed the wet ball into her waiting arms. "There you go, princess. Now But the princess didn't even listen. She ran, laughing back to her friends with so much joy, not even thinking about the little frog that was left behind. Hours passed. Then came the evening. The princess was getting ready to sit by the dinner table with the king and queen, her precious ball still in her arms, now cleaned, as shiny as ever. She was thanking the servant for pulling out the chair for her when she heard a gentle knock on the nearby window. She looked over, her eyes widening. The frog from the pond. Quickly she ran over, opened the window, and let the little frog jump on the window seat. He was dripping mud, scratched and exhausted. The princess immediately apologized. "Oh, dear frog, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. I left you there in the rain and storm." She turned to her parents, who were looking at her surprised and concerned. "Mother, Father, this frog here is a friend of mine. He helped me today, and in return, I promised he could come eat dinner at our table. Can he, please?"
The king and queen exchanged a shocked look. The king said, "What? A dirty little frog from outside? Why on earth would we let it in?" The princess ran over to her father, pleading, "Oh, please, father, I promised." "Yuck! No!" said the queen, clearly disgusted. "There is no way that thing sits at our dinner table. Are you insane? This is a dirty, wild creature." The princess cried and pleaded, but there was no use. Her parents would not have it. She took a big coat and went outside, meeting the frog on a nearby bench by the window. "Oh, I'm so sorry, my dear friend," she said to him. The frog jumped onto the bench and sat close beside her, his head shaking. "Oh, I was so excited to spend the evening inside, away from this rain and the cold, and this dirty, awful pond. I'm so hungry and tired. The journey up here to the castle was very hard." The princess listened closely. Her heart truly went out for the little frog. "Poor little thing," she said, bending down, wiped a chunk of mud off his slimy cheek, and gave it a small kiss. For a quick moment, the only thing she saw was gold fog appearing out of nowhere, and then it was all around the little frog, covering him up. And when the fog cleared, there was no frog on the bench beside her, but a young man. The princess was at a loss for words. "What? How? She stuttered in shock. The young man smiled at her and said, "I didn't mean to frighten you, princess. I'm sorry. The truth is, I wasn't actually a frog. I'm a prince, and I was cursed years ago by an evil sorcerer," he said quietly, lowering his head. "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you before. I was so ashamed." The princess shook her head. "No, don't be sorry, but how did you turn back into a prince?" And the prince told her how the only way to break the curse was an act of pure kindness from a princess. "And you did exactly that, without knowing who I really am," the prince said to her, smiling. The king and queen were very confused when their daughter went back inside, accompanied by a prince, whom they gladly invited to dinner. The prince and princess became good friends and grew closer every day, and a year later married in a ceremony by that same pond and lived happily ever after. Oh, what a beautiful tale! Well, children, being truly kind to others can lead you to great things and bring wonderful transformation. Don't you think? Bye-bye for now. If you like our stories, don't forget to subscribe.